Hey there guys, in today's video I'm going to be comparing the Apple Watch with the Oura Ring. I've been a user of both and I've got to see the bright side and the dark side of both of these pieces of hardware. And in today's video I hope to bring some clarity when it comes to your decision making around which one to buy, or maybe at the end of this video you'll decide to buy both of them like I did. So we've got this comparison table here, and I've just got this 1 to 5 scale here from best to worst. So I'm just going to rate each of these competing factors on one of those emojis. So hopefully this is a good way to kind of visualize what areas each of these competitors are good and bad at. If you enjoy this style of video, this style of comparison video, please go ahead and subscribe to let me know that you're enjoying this and that you want to see more content like this. Also hit the bell icon to receive notifications if I put more videos out like this. And really quick, before we jump into this table took a lot of work, and making this video took some research, so please go ahead and like this video. I'd really appreciate it. All right, let's jump right into it, starting out with sleep tracking. Now, sleep tracking is kind of the thing that Oura Ring gets marketed for a lot. The Apple Watch, on the other hand, is a little bit of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to health. It's going to cover a lot of areas, but it's not going to cover them as in depth as the Oura Ring might. I would say the Apple Watch is going to give you like an overview of everything. They definitely provide some good information, and I'll pull open the sleep tracking apps now to kind of give my opinion on both. So when you enter the Apple Health application, you're going to see some of your favorites, and I think that you can just edit that right here, and you can change what you want to show up right when you enter the app. My first thing here is sleep, so when I click on sleep, right off the bat you're going to see the average amount of time that you spend in bed and the average amount of time that you spend asleep, and you'll get this nice little graph to kind of visualize that. You can see it on some different time frames as well. And if I start scrolling down, you'll see these highlights right here. So it's going to show if you've had like an increased trend, like maybe you're getting more sleep than normal, which is probably a good thing for a lot of us. Many of us don't get enough sleep. So this is a good sign for me that I've moved from like a 7-hour average up to more like closer to like an 8-hour average. So that's exciting. If I scroll down here, it'll give me today versus yesterday, and it'll say, oh, you slept a little bit less than yesterday. So that's kind of interesting how it does that. It kind of just pulls all this data and it puts it nicely in front of you with all the information that you need. Next up, we have your heart rate during sleep. So I'm going to talk more about heart rate specifically in a little bit, but one thing that these apps differentiate is they differentiate your heart rate during sleep versus your heart rate during the day. Both two very different things, and I believe that they use that when they're trying to track sleep cycles and things like that. So we take a look here and you can see that my max is 64, and then it went down and dipped to 54 at the minimum, which is ideal. The way that this particular graph is going is usually you start out a little bit higher, you kind of dip down, and then you slowly curve back up as you're reaching the morning time. That's not how it's going to be for everyone, but that is pretty typical for how it should look when you have a graph for sleep. If I keep scrolling down here, they're going to give us some useful information about sleep, some useful articles that you can read into. Why is sleep so important? And you can just read more and educate yourself on the topic of sleep. So that's pretty neat. Scrolling down even further here, you're going to see that they have these sleep apps that you can integrate with both your iPhone and your Apple Watch. So that is one of the nice things that I'll get into a little bit more later. The Apple Watch has the benefit of having a bunch of developers on the App Store that can create things that run on the Apple Watch versus the Oura Ring. It only has the standalone Oura app. However, they are adding a lot of functionality to that. So at a high level view, that is what the health app looks like for the Apple Watch when it comes to sleep. Now let's go ahead and look at the Oura Ring app and see what they have going for them when it comes to sleep tracking. So these are my sleep stats from yesterday, and these are some really good sleep stats. I got a great night of sleep, and that actually inspired me to make this video. When I saw these sleep stats the other day, I was like, I should probably make a video comparing the Apple Watch and the Oura Ring, because I personally, and this is just a personal belief, I personally enjoy the Oura Ring a lot better for sleep. I just think that it gives you the information that you need. Not that the Apple Watch doesn't, but it just gives you the information that you need, no more, no less, and it allows you to kind of drill into things in a unique way. I think the way that they have it laid out is maybe better. Maybe the tracking is a bit better. And I know Oura is working on a new sleep algorithm that's supposed to increase the accuracy of their sleep tracking. And with the release of the Oura Ring 3, they kind of have taken that a little bit more seriously. But let's look at the app. So starting off, we have readiness, which is a score that you get every single morning, but it's going to base your readiness on a few factors, like your heart rate, your HRV, which stands for your heart rate variability. In other words, how often is your heart rate changing? You can learn more about that. You can get really deep with HRV. It's kind of a high level topic, and I don't even personally understand everything that has to do with HRV, but that's kind of what goes into readiness. And they'll also look at your activity and stuff like that. But right now we're talking about sleep, and sleep and readiness kind of go hand in hand in the Oura app. But if I scroll down to this sleep section here and I click on it, you can see that it's going to right off the bat give you a score, and then it's going to tell you if this is like a good or a bad thing. Typically, the higher the score, the better. But this says optimal, and I got 87, and it gave me a little crown above that number, which indicates that it was a good night of sleep, at least for me. And if I hit the sleep tab right in the middle on the bottom of the screen, you'll see that we go even further in detail on my sleep. You'll see there's a gap here. This is just because it was over the holidays and I forgot to bring my Oura Ring charger with me, so I didn't get that data over the holidays. But yesterday I started tracking again and I got some well needed rest. This 10 hours is not typical for me, but I kind of just took a day to rest and recharge. So if I scroll down here, you're going to see total sleep, efficiency of my sleep. So how often am I waking up? Am I making good use of that time? And then next you'll see restfulness, which I'm assuming is kind of just like an indication of how well rested you are from your sleep. So kind of similar to efficiency. You'll see that next they have REM sleep and deep sleep. REM sleep is kind of like when you're dreaming and when you're almost between awake and asleep. It stands for rapid eye movement. So this is just a stage of sleep that we all go through. Typically this happens later on towards the early morning. So not like right when you fall asleep, but later on. At least that's what I've seen with my stats. And then the deep sleep stat is typically when your body goes into like this restorative, very deep, low heart rate type of sleep. So it's going to show you those two numbers. It's going to give you the hourly amount, and then it's also going to give you a percentage of your total sleep. Latency, I believe, is how long it takes you to go to sleep, but don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that latency is just an indication of how long it takes you to go to sleep once you're laying in bed, which it's pretty cool that it can tell that without you signaling to the app that you have laid down. The Oura Ring just kind of reads that. And then timing. So I don't know exactly what timing is. I think it's just like when you go to sleep and when you wake up. Not ideal for this day, obviously, because I slept from 11 to 11. So it would be better off if I went to bed at like maybe 9:30 and woke up around 9. Like that would be a little bit better timing for my circadian rhythm. Next, we have time asleep right here, and it's going to show all of the stages of our sleep throughout the night on a timeline. It's going to give us the times that we were awake, the times that we were moving around a lot. So that top light blue color is actually going to be REM sleep. So this is that rapid eye movement stage where usually you're dreaming. And the funny thing is I actually remember waking up from a dream right before I woke up. And as you can tell, I was in that REM stage right before I woke up, right around 11:41. And it's also pretty neat that it shows your movement throughout the night. So that typically lines up with when you're awake or when you're dreaming. If I continue scrolling down, it gives us this very nice looking heart rate graph that gives us all the information that we need about our sleep that night. 51 BPM was my lowest point and 58 BPM was my average for that night. And scrolling down even further, we have our heart rate variability, which is pretty neat. I think this is unique to the Oura Ring. Not a lot of other, consumer grade trackers track HRV or do it well at that. So I think that Oura Ring does it quite nicely, and they can show you that throughout the night. Typically a higher HRV represents good health and good readiness, and a lower HRV, you might see it when you're sick or you're in recovery. So that can be a good indication of whether you should be working really hard that next day, or if you should be taking it a little bit easier to allow your body some time to relax and rest so that you don't end up in a spiral of mental issues like anxiety or depression, anger, irritability. Okay, so if I had to give each of these a rating on sleep tracking, I would have to say that the Apple Watch is going to get a generally good score, a 4 out of 5. I just think when you're comparing it to the Oura Ring, it's just not as informative, but it's still really good. If there are other things that you like about the Apple Watch, it's certainly a good option. Now I'm going to give the Oura Ring this halo here, so a 5 out of 5 when comparing it to the Apple Watch. Now let's move on to heart rate tracking. So both of these devices do indeed have heart rate tracking, and I think that this is a metric that a lot of times people kind of overthink on a daily basis. That's just my observation. But the overall trend of your resting heart rate over time is very good to look at. And particularly, we already looked at this, during sleep, your heart rate can indicate just like your overall readiness or how well you're resting or how deep of sleep you're getting into. Typically, a lower heart rate is going to be good, especially if you're an active person. Like, you don't want it to get too low, but a generally low resting heart rate is a pretty good thing. It indicates that you have good heart health and your heart doesn't have to work as hard because you've trained to a point where your heart rate is a little bit lower. It doesn't have to constantly be pumping like crazy. So this is a good thing to keep an eye on. And the Apple Watch does this extremely well. I don't know about accuracy between these two devices. I think that they're both pretty accurate. You can't compare them to medical grade equipment, of course, but for being something that you can just buy, anybody can go buy one and use it pretty easily and pretty readily, that's a pretty amazing feat. Now let's start out with the Apple Watch. So this is the Apple Watch app, and as you can see right now, my heart rate is at 73 beats per minute. This is a pretty cool graph, and I like that this is a live view of my heart rate opposed to maybe just some data from 10 minutes ago or something like that. I do think that it has some irregularities in terms of some of the data that it pulls based on how you're moving around and stuff like that. To think that my heart rate was at 103 1 minute ago and now it's at 75 is a little bit weird to me. But if you're sitting still, this is generally going to work a lot better than if you're moving around and stuff like that. Same goes for the Oura Ring. But nonetheless, this is a very cool application on the Apple Watch. So in the heart rate app, they also have your resting heart rate for today, or the average resting heart rate. If I scroll down a bit here, you'll also see that I have my walking average, which is pretty cool because that's going to give me an idea of how my heart reacts when I start moving around a lot. They also have this nice blood oxygen level sensor, so it's going to track that every once in a while in the background. And as you can see, 3 days ago, it tracked it at 97%. If I hit start, it's going to do a 15-second timer. And it's going to give me my blood oxygen level. Now I know this isn't directly related to heart rate, but it is something to do with heart health. So I want to show all of the features that the Apple Watch has to offer because there is a wide array. I also want to show you guys this ECG app. This is very interesting and it is somewhat early stages, so it's hard to know how accurate this is, but I have seen some news articles about how this has saved some people's lives by warning them that they're about to have a heart attack. So that's pretty crazy. I'm going to hold my finger down on this and perform an ECG right now to tell if I have a heart arrhythmia, which I know I don't, but this is just a cool feature. So let's see what it looks like. All right, so I'm just gonna hold my finger down on the crown for 30 seconds. Now, because I'm moving around quite a bit, it gave me a poor recording. So this is something where you have to be extremely still and you kind of have to like hold yourself in the exact same position. Otherwise this will happen. But what you want to be looking for is a sinus rhythm. That is the normal rhythm for your heart. So that's a pretty cool feature on the Apple Watch. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Oura Ring's heart rate tracking feature. If I scroll down here in the app, it's one of the first things that I see. And this is actually new and unique to the Oura Ring 3, the way that this is being presented. The Oura Ring 2 had some decent heart rate data, but since they've updated the app and the Ring, it's gotten a whole lot better. So what you'll see is just an overview of the graph for today. And I don't have any restorative time today, but if you do take like a nap or if your heart rate goes like lower and the Ring can tell that you're not moving a lot, it'll use a lot of other metrics to kind of decide, okay, are you getting some like kind of resting time? If it does, then it'll give you that restorative time metric. Let me scroll around and see if I can, there we go. So yesterday I had a ton of restorative time, about 47 minutes to be exact. So me sleeping in kind of helped out with that, but there was also some blips of restorative time throughout the day. And the thing that I like about this is it gives you like a timeline view of your heart rate that's really easy to read, that shows you the difference between your sleeping heart rate and your daytime heart rate. And what you'll notice is when you're sleeping, your heart rate is a lot lower. So if you need to be rested, it's not good to have a high heart rate. You're not gonna be able to sleep with a super high heart rate. And if you can sleep, you're probably not gonna be getting that great of sleep. So this is a unique way to look at it. I'm gonna close out of here and I'm gonna show you the live heart rate tracking feature right now. So I'm just going to set my phone down. I'm gonna hit this little heart icon next to heart rate and we're gonna get a live reading of what my heart rate is right now with the Oura Ring. All right, so we're sitting around 68 to 70 BPM right now. Pretty average heart rate. I believe if I move, it'll start kind of messing with the heart rate a little bit. It's probably not gonna work as well. But yeah, that is how you track your heart rate on Oura Ring, and it's pretty neat. It's tracking this in the background, but this feature that I just showed you is kind of like that live view. So if you want just a live read of it, you can click that little heart. All right, now let's head back over to our comparison table and give these a rating. So we're talking about heart rate tracking, and I think that the Apple Watch just has a lot more features when it comes to your heart. They have a big focus on developing that in the future. There are some quarrels that I have about it right now, and just the way the data is laid out isn't that great. I wish I could give it a 4.5, but I know that they work really hard on the heart rate tracking, and for most people, this is gonna be a really great feature. So for that, I'm going to give it a Halo, a 5 out of 5. And for the Oura Ring, I believe that, you know, they're still early in the heart rate tracking game, but the way that they show you the data is just so amazing. Sometimes I question the raw data of the heart rate tracking, but I do that with the Apple Watch as well. Sometimes I think, you know, if I had a proper heart rate tracker, I'd probably track it a little bit different. But these are our best options on the market right now for something that's, you know, fashionable yet effective at tracking your heart rate. So I'm also going to give the Oura Ring a halo on this one. I am a bit of an Oura Ring fanboy. If you go on my channel, you'll see that I have tons of other Oura Ring videos. So keep that in mind. I may be a bit biased here, but I just couldn't resist giving both of these a halo. If I had to talk about the Oura Ring 2, I would have given it maybe like this little cringe face because the heart rate tracking on that thing used to be pretty bad. But since they've done the update, it's kind of raised to the level of the Apple Watch in my opinion. All right, next let's talk about interfacing with the device. What does it look like actually using it and getting to look at the data and sort through that stuff and just like some of the other outside features. Basically, I want to talk about what's the experience like for a user who's using the applications or using the software that are associated with the device. So I've got my phone recording. Let's start off by looking at the Apple Watch interface. So Just kind of got to do a little hand gesture, and then boom, we've got Mickey Mouse showing me what time it is. I can even tap on him, and he'll tell me the time.
It's 12:40.
Pretty neat. And then if I click on this side button here, you'll see that it pulls up my recent apps. Similar to the iPhone, I can scroll through here. And if I hit on this all apps button right there, it's gonna pull me into my apps, and I can scroll around these and look through my apps. There's tons of different apps. They do a lot of different things. I'm sorry that I'm moving my hand along with this. I only have so many hands to record on. I really should get a tripod for my phone or something so this overhead shot's a little easier. Having an Apple Watch is like having an iPhone on your wrist essentially. So, you know, there's lots of apps that you can add onto it. The functionality is great. It's a great piece of hardware. Overall, I don't have a lot of complaints, but one thing I will say is using the watch itself, the screen can be a bit small. Right now you're looking at my Apple Watch Series 6, but I actually just got my girlfriend a Series 7 for Christmas, and I think that the screen is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit nicer. However, even with the screen being a bit bigger on the 7, it's still hard to do things like text. I've watched her try to text on it. I don't use mine for texting usually, but it is just super hard, and her hands are super tiny. So I mean, I can't imagine my hands trying to navigate the Series 6. I guess if you have the biggest screen, that's going to give you the best bet for interfacing with the Apple Watch. But there are also ways that you can interface with the data on your phone, which is what I prefer. So now let's talk a little bit about Oura Ring. Interfacing with the Oura Ring is a minimalist experience. It's really only going to give you what you need to see about your health, and it's going to put the rest in the background. So that's the thing that I like about the Oura Ring. It's a little bit less distraction oriented. It's a minimalist approach. It just gives you the information you need. It gamifies it a little bit by adding a score to your health stats, but it doesn't keep you in the app for too long. It just gives you the info that you need. You're excited to check it when you wake up. You're excited to check it after a workout, but you're not sitting in the app wasting time scrolling for a long period of time. I will say it is nice to have the Apple Watch on your wrist, but sometimes it can be a bit of a distraction. I would describe the Apple Watch interface and the Apple interface overall as probably like better than Android in my opinion. I wouldn't have an Apple Watch and all these Apple products if I didn't think that. But it's definitely a bit distracting at times, whereas the Apple Watch is more of a quality over quantity minimalist type feel. So whatever you're going for, if you want more functionality, maybe a little bit more distraction, a little bit of complexity that makes it a little bit worse, then go with the Apple Watch. But if you want a minimalist experience where you can kind of just check your health and then get that out of the way and stop thinking about it for the rest of the day, then the Oura Ring is going to be a better option for you. Now, when it comes to my rating, my personal rating, I'm going to be giving the Oura Ring a halo on this one. And we're going to give the Apple Watch a smiley face. Again, this could have very easily gone the other way if I wasn't somebody who cared more about the minimalist approach and the less is more kind of vibe. I'm personally just someone who likes to look at my stats, get it out of the way in the morning, enjoy the experience for 5 to 10 minutes, and then be done with it. Next, I would like to compare the battery life and the overall charge time, because this is a huge thing when it comes to using your device. How long does it have to be on the charger, and how frequently does it have to be on the charger? Because think about it, if you have to take this thing off to put it on the charger, that's just more time that it's not on your wrist, and it's more decision fatigue that gets added to your day. Decision fatigue is when you have to make too many decisions, and then your willpower is reduced because of that. Now, I know that plugging your device in and then taking it off the charger and putting it back on isn't really that hard, but all of these things add up, and in my mind, having to charge something is one of the most annoying things that you could possibly have in a user experience. So let's look at how the Apple Watch compares to the Oura Ring when it comes to battery consumption and battery life, charge times, things like that. So we are looking at the battery comparison right here, and as you can see, it's pretty clear cut. They have pretty similar charge times. This is the Apple Watch 7 versus the Oura Ring Gen 3. So these can vary a lot. In fact, the Apple Watch 7 just got a whole lot better at charging a little bit faster and having a bit of a longer battery life. So it actually is getting better for Apple. But if you take a look over at the Oura Ring side of things, as you can see, the Oura Ring with airplane mode enabled for a lot of the time can last nearly a week without a charge. So what you can do with your Oura Ring is kind of turn it on airplane mode where it's not sending Bluetooth signals between the app. You do have to sync it like once per day, but I usually check it in the morning and it automatically resyncs it when you open the app. So with that said, if I was going on a camping trip or something like that, and I just didn't want to have any EMFs, I didn't want to have any electromagnetic frequencies hitting me, I could put my Oura Ring on airplane mode and it's still collecting the data, but it's not sending out like, it's not emitting like Bluetooth signals or anything like that. And it conserves the battery life. So with that in mind, the Oura Ring can last nearly a week. I would say if you're using it frequently and you're keeping the Bluetooth on, it's probably gonna last about half that time. But still a clear winner compared to the Apple Watch at 18 hours, which is still pretty good. It's about as long as your phone lasts, I would think. Maybe the phone lasts a bit longer. I might have to do some research on that. But when you think about it, this thing is definitely not consuming nearly as much power as this thing with the screen and all of the added functionality. So again, we come to that crossroads of what are you looking for? Are you looking for a health tracker, or are you looking for something that you can play around with a bunch of different apps and do a whole lot with? If you want the heavy, custom, whatever you want experience, go with the Apple Watch. But if you're just looking for a simple health tracker that does its job really well, I would say the Oura Ring definitely takes the cake when it comes to battery life. And to be honest, one of the most annoying things for me about the Apple Watch is its battery life. I'm not saying that it isn't a feat what they've pulled off, you know, putting the screen on your wrist and allowing it to like constantly be tracking your health. But Oura Ring does kind of the same thing when it comes to health. It doesn't need the screen. In fact, the screen is sometimes a distraction in my opinion, except you can't tell the time and click on Mickey and have him tell you the time.
It's 12:54.
But you get the idea, right? Minimalism or customizability. Which one are you going to choose? There's trade-offs. So going back to our comparison slide, let's give a rating for battery life on Apple Watch. I would say I also have the Series 6, so this thing's even worse on battery life than the 7, which are the stats that I just showed you. So for me, this is going to be a sad face. And that's just because I really don't care for having to charge this thing on a regular basis. In fact, having to take it off and charge it just adds that extra layer of complexity. If I'm going on a trip, I want to be able to charge my item up before the trip and then not have to charge it again, because what happens for me is I bring the charger with me and then I forget it, you know? So battery charging and whatnot is annoying overall. But I would say that Oura Ring does it extremely well. Again, I know I'm kind of biased when it comes to Oura Ring, but I'm going to give it a halo on this. Actually, I'm going to give it a smiley face because I think they can do even better, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of room to go. There's no screen on this thing, and I think it could get a whole lot more efficient when it comes to battery life. I think there's upside to grow, and I think there's a ton of upside for Apple. I know that it's a lot harder to keep a screen charged up, but again, from a personal customer point of view, it's pretty annoying to have to charge that thing. Now let's look at extra functionality. So these are the bells and whistles, the extra things that you can do with the application. I would say very clearly, you know, the Apple Watch has thousands of apps that can be uploaded to it, lots of different functionality. You can even play little games like Pong and things like that on the Apple Watch. It's tracking your health on a regular basis. It's a pretty impressive feat to have all of that on your wrist and integrated so well into the Apple ecosystem with your iPhone. In fact, if I walk up to my MacBook with my Apple Watch on, it'll unlock my MacBook for me, which is just so intuitive, so cool. And you can tell that the team over at Apple really put some extra thought into the Apple Watch when it came to the overall Apple ecosystem. If I pull up maps on my phone when I'm navigating to a destination, if my Apple Watch is on, it's automatically going to pull up the maps, and it'll give me haptic feedback, like that little vibration on my wrist when it's time to turn. It'll give me like a little boop, 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 boop. And if you have an Apple Watch, you know how convenient that can be. That extra functionality really goes the extra mile. And it's really nice the way that it integrates with your life. So when it comes to extra functionality, I'm going to give the Apple Watch a halo. It does it so well. That's what it's made for, in my opinion. And when it comes to the Oura Ring, now their functionality is a little bit different. It's just focused around health. It's really good when it comes to that. And they're also working on bringing like meditation sounds and tracking your vitals during a meditation to the table. So that's interesting. They're helping with like different sleep sounds. They've got a whole library of that stuff now on the Oura Ring app. And I think that overall, they're doing well, but it just can't compare to the Apple Watch in terms of functionality. I'm gonna give the Oura Ring a 3 out of 5 on functionality. I personally like it, but if I have to compare the two on functionality, Apple is the clear winner. Next, we're going to look at the category of advantages. So I'm looking at these two companies from like a business perspective and looking at, which one has the best upside when it comes to, being able to create these things. So when it comes to Apple, they're a massive company. They make up a huge part of the S&P 500, and they're just a behemoth. They are going to be putting so much research and development into these things, and someday they probably will be able to completely accurately 100% say, yes, you might be having a heart attack or something like that. And I find that extremely exciting. They have a big vision for where they want to take health with the Apple Watch. They've integrated it with Apple Fitness and things like that. And they have a huge competitive advantage when it comes to just the size and the moats around their business. Whereas Oura, their advantage is they're a small company, they're nimble, and they target a specific subset of customers. They target the health geeks, the biohackers. And I think if Oura can start targeting a little bit more into the other crowds, they're gonna have a higher advantage, but they're a much smaller company. Apple just dwarfs Oura. All that aside, Oura Ring does a great job at what it does, but it doesn't have a lot of competitive advantages when it comes to like a company versus company perspective. In fact, they actually just switched their CEO, and some of the things that Oura has been doing lately in terms of adding a subscription model on top of buying the ring for $6.99 per month, which I kind of disagree with. They didn't bring their old customers in, so I actually got grandfathered in. I'll have free Oura subscription for life, but new Oura customers actually have a $6.99 subscription. So that subscription fee has been controversial, and to be honest, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. From a competitive, like customer-focused view, I would say that, overall, if I had to pick a company to put my money in, it would definitely be Apple. Aura's maybe a smaller kind of like growth-focused company, but Apple just does it so much better when it comes to overall like business structure. So when it comes to their advantages, I'm gonna give Apple a halo. They're one of the biggest companies in the world. They're doing it pretty well. And then when it comes to Oura, I might give them a bit of a cringe face on this one because lately they've kind of been in a bit of a downturn when it comes to these things. Let's talk about aesthetics really quick, okay? So I'm gonna take off this Apple Watch really quick and just kind of show you guys. The Apple Watch is the every person watch. It has different colored bands, different cases, functionality where you can kind of like clip on different cases. You can pull off these bands very easily. Apparently not so easily. Maybe. Yeah. Let's reset that. One of the nice things is you can pull these bands off pretty easily. You just have to click the button and then it slides right off like that. And then you can slide it right back in. So they're interchangeable. You can change the colors, the look. You can even get like a leather band with this if you wanted to. I don't know why you would. I think that the sportier look goes with the Apple Watch a lot better. But overall, the aesthetics of this can look pretty much however you want. The one thing that Apple doesn't do that well, that they can't really avoid, I mean, they're going with a very basic look here, but this face just doesn't do it for me. You know, the rounded edges, the kind of like tech focused look, this just feels like it's going to be stuck in a certain era. You know, it doesn't feel timeless to me. It doesn't feel like something that I could wear to like a dinner party or to like a formal event. One thing that you can do is you can change the watch face. I've got Mickey Mouse on here right now, which is pretty neat. There's lots of faces on here that you can cycle through, and you can change these however you want them. But overall, when I put this on, I just kind of feel like everyone else. Even though you can change the straps out and you can change the casing on it, it just doesn't feel unique in a way. If I look at something like this Seiko here that I have, this is a mechanical watch, and it powers itself based on the movement of it. If I shake it, you can hear, I'm gonna hold it next to the mic, you can hear it moving around in there, and you can hear it powering itself, and that's pretty neat. And this also, another thing about this watch is it's got an open case back, so I can see the inner workings of this watch. And I'd much prefer something like that when you're going with a wristwatch over an Apple Watch. Of course, you can't compare the functionality of this thing. All it does is tell me the time and day. But it's just, there's something about it, the quirk of it, that fits my aesthetic a whole lot better. Now, when it comes to the Oura Ring, when it comes to aesthetics of the Oura Ring, I have the silver on. They make the Oura Ring in 5 configurations. They have a matte black, which I really liked, but it got scratched up pretty easily, so that was kind of annoying. Just like a shiny black. And then they have this silver. They have a gold, and then they have all of those configurations with a diamond in it. So those are the 5 options when you get an Oura Ring. Again, we're seeing that minimalist theme, right? It's small on your hand, it doesn't take up a lot of real estate on you, you know. In fact, I get compliments on this, and people are surprised when I take it off and I show them the nodes on the inside of it, because you know, they're like, what? That thing tracks your health and it looks pretty cool. I would have to say that I'm a personal fan of the Oura Ring because it matches my aesthetic, like just out of the gates, but there aren't a lot of options in terms of customizability as there are with the Apple Watch. So if you're not kind of into watches and you aren't insulted by, you know, the Apple Watch a little bit with its techie kind of rounded off edges, stuck in 2010s kind of look, then the Apple Watch is probably going to be for you. But if you kind of cringe at the look of the Apple Watch and you think, you know, you'd rather have something like this on your wrist for a nice event, then you're probably going to want to go for like the Oura Ring. So let's give it a final rating. I would say that overall the Apple Watch for me is going to have to get a smiley face, just because a lot of people are going to like this. It's very interchangeable. You can change the faces on it. It just doesn't pull it off for me all the time when I'm trying to dress up. It's a good day-to-day watch though. If I'm going to the gym, if I'm going on a walk, if I'm going, you know, just to like a casual get-together, Apple Watch is fine. Now, when it comes to the aesthetics of the Oura Ring, I'm also going to give it a smiley face, but for the opposite reason. I like it, but I don't think everybody will. I don't think that it fits everybody's style. So with that said, hopefully my nuanced answer can give you the answer you're looking for, which is if you are, again, interested in the minimalist approach, the Oura Ring might be for you. If you're interested in being able to change things around, the Apple Watch is probably the way to go. One thing that I adore about the Oura Ring is its temperature tracking functionality. I think that temperature tracking is a great way to tell your overall readiness, and it's a metric that Apple doesn't introduce with the Apple Watch. So I'm going to have to, right off the bat, give Apple the crying face for temperature tracking because it doesn't exist on the Apple Watch, unfortunately. And I'm going to give Oura Ring a smiley face. I think it could get better. I think there's upside, but I think it's great as it stands. Now let's talk about durability. So can this thing stand the test against the Oura Ring for durability? No Apple Watch is going to be able to be as durable as the Oura Ring, just because the materials that they make it out of, the fact that it's like such a huge supply chain and they aren't making these for small groups of people. They're not going to be able to make an Apple Watch that's that's as durable as the Oura Ring. But the Apple Watch 7 is actually super exciting because they introduced this new type of glass that's really hard to break. They introduced the ability to swim with it on, so you can swim through the water and whatnot. All of these features are already kind of integrated in the Oura Ring. One, because it doesn't have a screen, and two, it's a lot easier to make a ring that's water resistant versus this with all of these ports and whatnot on the Apple Watch. So they're both pretty durable, especially if you get the newer Apple Watches. The older ones, I don't know if I can speak for those much. I think the screens used to crack a lot, but you can get like a cover case similar to those Otter boxes that you can get on your phone, and that will cover your screen and make it a little bit less of a concern if you have an older Apple Watch. If you have the newer one, don't have to worry about the screen breaking as much. So when it comes to durability, I think that Apple does it pretty well. They do it as well as they can. I'm going to give them a smiley face on that. And Oura Ring, I would say, is going to get a smiley face as well because certain colors, they do scratch up pretty easily, but it doesn't affect the quality of the overall experience with the ring. It just affects, like if I'm picking up weights with it, it's going to scratch the bottom of the ring over time. So if you want to be active in lifting weights and whatnot, or doing calisthenics or anything like that, you're not going to probably want to wear the ring, but at the same time you do want to wear it because you want it to track your stats along the way. So you've got to be okay with buying an Oura Ring and getting it scratched up, but it's not going to affect the usability of it in any way. Now, finally, let's look at future outlook for the Apple Watch and the Oura Ring as they release new models in the future. So I would say that overall, I like the prospect of Apple's future. I think that they've got a lot going for them. They're headed in the right direction. I found that Apple typically moves a little bit slower than all of the competitors, but when they come out with a feature, when they release something, it's always amazing. It's always better than everyone else. They're kind of that silent company that sits in the background, watches what everything does, and they create the products of the future. There's a lot of great releases that came out of Apple, the iPhone being the first one, and their personal computers are also amazing. When they created the Apple Watch, it was a huge innovation, and I know that they're working on even more ways to integrate the Apple Watch with your life and make it a more customer-centric device. So I'm going to give Apple a halo on this one. When it comes to the Oura Ring, their future outlook is a little bit different. They actually just had a change in leadership. They have a new CEO stepping in, so it's a little bit different. It is a smaller company. Customer service is a little bit shoddy, to be honest. I don't know, to be honest. I'm a little concerned for Oura's future. I think that they had a heyday with the Gen 2. I think the Gen 2 was kind of where they peaked in terms of customer popularity. The Gen 3, of course, is a lot better than the Gen 2. There's a lot of new features, like that heart rate tracking feature I showed you earlier in the video. But I am a bit concerned about where they're headed. I think that they will be fine, but sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I get a little bit worried about Oura's future and just the overall stability of the company. So for that, I'm going to give them a 3 out of 5. All right, finally, let's take a look at the final score between the Apple Watch and the Oura Ring. So that brings the total score for the Apple Watch to 39 points and the total score for the Oura Ring to 37 points. This is by no means an objective review. I've tried to be objective with this, but of course my bias is going to lead me one way or the other. In fact, it led me to the opposite of what I thought, which is the Apple Watch. I use this a lot less, I wear it a lot less, I think about it a lot less, but I know that there's so much capability for the average person with an Apple Watch. Whereas with the Oura Ring, I think it's the true tracker if you're into your health, and it's a minimalist approach to health tracking and a minimalist approach to a wearable that's actually really nice to look at. So that's kind of where my final stance on this is. I would say the Oura Ring is still my favorite of the two. If I had to go without one, I'd pick going without the Apple Watch. But they're both great devices, and I hope that this review gave you an insight into which one you should choose. If it did, please leave a comment below and let me know which your favorite one is. and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and like this video before you leave because that helps out a ton, and this video took a lot of time. And I'm paying an editor to make the video, so I really appreciate any likes or comments that can help us grow.